You're listening to the More Than the Music podcast, episode 51, featuring Jodi and Chris from Loving the Outcome.
We knew that to have the world and to have this, dream fulfilled, but not have God in the middle of it was completely useless and empty. So thy kingdom come, my kingdom go. And while I was praying that, I was 9 months pregnant with Milo. And I was still making a to-do list and kind of in my own way trying to control my kingdom and my world. And I really felt the Holy Spirit just say to me, do you have the faith to rip that up and make a miracle list? And it was really just the Holy Spirit saying, can you shift your focus off your kingdom, off of what you can do and accomplish, and shift it to me and actually have eyes to see what I want to do.
You're about to hear how Loving the Outcome ripped up their to-do list and started a miracle list, why they sold everything and lived out of their car to pursue music, the crazy circumstances that led to them finding out they were pregnant with their second child, and why their album These Are the Days represents an entirely new season in their life. I'm Justin Paul, along with Jodi and Chris from Loving the Outcome, and we're going to talk about a lot more than just the music.
More Than the Music is hosted by Justin Paul, a touring musician turned national radio personality who loves the dramatic, humorous, sometimes tragic, and often inspiring story behind the songs from your favorite artists. You can connect with the show at wayfm.com/Justin. Now here's your host, Justin Paul.
I am so thrilled today to be joined on the More Than the Music podcast by Jodi and Chris from Loving the Outcome. How are you guys?
What's up?
Thank you so much for being here. We're going to talk about the songs on the album These Are the Days, but before we even jump into the music, let's go back to how this whole thing started at the beginning. You guys are from Canada, married, in a band together. I'm sure there's an awesome story about how that whole thing happened, right?
Well, first of all, you have a wolf on your hat.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's
I wore
an
it just
ode
for
to
you
Canada.
guys.
Yes.
So we don't tell people this, but our very first band was Jodi King and the Lone Wolf, which was the two of us. And so you didn't even know, but you're starting this podcast off right. Our son's middle name is Wolf. There's this theme in our life. So yeah, we met, we were two separate bands, and we both got hired to lead worship by this kind of collective traveling across Canada in a van. So we were kind of besties, and I thought he was hot. Found out he loved Jesus. Asked him to be in my band. The rest is history.
Do you realize that we played a show last weekend very close to where we had our first date?
No. Where?
Olathe, Colorado, which is about an hour or two from Durango, Colorado.
And that was our first show?
That was our first. We watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I consider that our first date.
We probably held hands.
Making memories.
Oh my goodness. Okay, back to, what did you ask us?
Look at us now. Right? So you started off as best friends, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think, Chris, you can't really have besties, right? You had other intentions, didn't you?
This poor guy had to hear about all my crushes on the road because he was my best friend. So I'd be like, this guy was super hot. Met him in the shoe store. I didn't even want the shoes, but I bought them anyway.
I was losing to a shoe store guy.
But you won.
For a while.
Not that there's anything wrong with shoes, but it's come on.
You did win though, babe. Patient. This man is patient. And no, for real, I remember we had one half-hour stop in our hometown in Winnipeg. And my sister met us for dinner or something, and a snowstorm, I'm not making this up.
-30.
This is real life in Canada. A snowstorm blew up, and I didn't have my jacket, and Chris just went to the van, grabbed my big parka, brought it in, and he did this stuff for me all the time. So I was kind of blind to it. He's like, oh, here you go. You're going to be cold. You'll need this. I was like, thanks. And my sister was like, that guy is super cute and he's so sweet. You need to pray about this. I'm like,
he's thinking about more than being friends.
Yeah. I'm like, no, he's just my friend. And honestly, I started praying about it, and then my heart just flip-flopped, and the rest was kind of history. I think we were married a year later. So thank you, Brittany. My sister saw it before any of us did.
And that was 14 years ago, right?
Almost.
Yeah?
We're getting there.
This is 14.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This year.
Here we are.
It may have been 12 in the last interview we did. I don't remember.
My anniversary gifts get better and better, though, because he knows my shoe size.
Oh, yeah?
I got these really awesome blue boots. Yeah, last year you shipped them on the road.
Well, he was losing to the shoe store guy, so he better know your shoe size.
Yeah, that's right.
That's true. Good point.
He's like, I'm going to make sure I know her shoe size.
I love it.
Something interesting I found out is that you actually grew up 10 minutes apart in Winnipeg, but didn't really know each other until later, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it gets better than that.
Yeah.
Our dads worked together.
Same?
In the same company.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Her dad worked for my dad's brother.
Yep. It's a little
in the
nuts.
same building.
And how did you not?
We went to the same high school.
I know, right? I don't know. It just,
Yeah.
we never crossed
It's
paths.
Canada.
Yeah.
It's
Canada's
Canada.
big.
So when it's like, hey, I know Mike from Canada. Do you know him? It's a real thing.
Yeah. I've talked to other people on this show who are like from different countries. And I know like here in America, we just assume that if you're from somewhere else, you know my
Right.
friend who's also from that country.
Right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like our hometown is 800,000 people. It's not actually that small.
Yeah.
But it is. The weirdest thing is it's like an island because to get to our first show was like an 8-hour drive. So it's not conducive to touring at all, besides the winter as well. So Nashville has been great.
Yeah.
We like it here.
So you started out, Jodi, as a solo artist, and then this whole worship thing got started, and that's how you met Chris.
Yeah.
How did you decide to go from that to doing your own thing? But together, really?
I wish I could say it was like a cognitive choice. I feel like this is one of those stories where the Lord was actually like shaping us into loving the outcome beyond like, hey, let's choose a band and be a band together, babe, which sounds cute and fun. And it really didn't go that way. Like it was tough. We were living in our Jetta, kind of selling CDs out of the car, like gig to gig. And although it sounds rough, and it was, looking back, I mean, that's the foundation, really building, learning how to be married and serve each other and be in a band together. And I mean, when I read through scripture, I read a lot of stories of renaming. And I feel like when the Lord has you on a new mission, it's a new name and a new turn. And so even though the name Love and the Outcome, really, we didn't have it until about 4 years ago.
That's right.
The Lord was kind of forming this already. So yeah, I don't know. We sold everything, toured in our car, ditched our other bands. And
I read that. I was like, that is commitment. Like you were...
We sound like God's fun side project. It's like, I'm just going to throw a bunch of stuff at these two and they're just going to roll with it. Like other people are just
literally.
like, no, I have my plan. This is going to happen 5 year, 10 year.
Oh, let's be
like,
clear. I did.
We
But
don't
I
have a plan B.
I had to let those go. I mean, literally ditched all the backup plans. I don't know if we would have gone for it otherwise. Like, I remember you said, let's sell our condo. And if we sell it, we'll use that money to make a record. And I was so hesitant, but I'm like, okay, sure, let's try. The next
Like, where are we going to live after that?
I know.
Yeah, we ended up using all the money for the record.
We did.
Didn't really think that one through.
And then the career
we got a really
ended.
nice record out of it.
It sounded great.
Yeah,
Sounded good.
I mean, but the person that bought the condo was like, can I have everything in it too? Because I want to use it as a rental. We're like, sure. So we literally left Winnipeg in our car with nothing. And looking back, I can't believe we did, but I'm glad we did. Like being married and knowing how to risk and not kind of living scared of much has been the best thing for us.
So you were literally living out of your car, trying to find friends and stuff to stay with, right?
Yeah.
For 2 years.
And
Yeah.
thankfully, some of those people are still our friends.
Yeah. We thanked them in every record. We're still thanking them.
Sometimes you start staying with people and they're like, I didn't know that we were this close of friends.
Especially with two boys. Well, one boy about to be two. I don't think we could do life the same way.
When we discovered house concerts, it was like the game changer. It's like, can we just stay here for the weekend? And we got a show over here and we'll play the concert and then we'll go do this thing. And they're like, sure. Yeah, okay.
A, we wouldn't fit in the Jetta anymore. B, nobody wants two boys and us taking over their home. So I'm glad that we don't live in our Jetta anymore.
Yeah. Well, you do. You travel with your son Milo, right? Most of the time? And now you've got another one on the way. Is that
More often
going
than
to
not,
continue?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The thing about us both being on stage is you kind of have to find a way to do it as a family. And honestly, it wasn't finding a way. That was the dream. Like it wasn't, let's grow up and get real jobs, So we're going to hire a nanny though.
Okay.
Which we have not had up
Good.
until now. But we took a tour 6 weeks after this one's born. We're going with Mandisa and Danny Goki. And so we're taking our own little like mini bus, 6 bunks, and we're going to figure out how to do this.
With 2 kids on the road.
We did a tour with Skillet a while ago. We were on Winter Jam with them, and they're some of our favorite people. They were just like, yeah, I mean, this is how we did it. I mean, they were already on a bus when they had their kids, but
A little more successful, I believe.
yeah, we're like kind of a quieter version of Skillet.
Similar. Yeah.
But they were just so supportive. It was before we had Milo. They're just like, you just figure it out and it's great. And don't let anyone tell you can't do it because we did it.
It's a really good counterpoint to a life of booking shows a year and a half out, right? Like I didn't know I'd be 9 months pregnant playing festivals. It wasn't necessarily the plan, but it's great because you're always planning. And then you have kids and it's like, it's the now, it's being present. And it's so good for us. Like, man, we are starting to get a little too serious, babe. You have kids, you let things go. You realize parks are like the best thing in the world.
You start spending too much time thinking about where should this picture go on this wall. And it's like, it really doesn't matter.
He's saying this because yesterday I had one of those like pregnancy moments.
I am not handy in the least. And
I'm with you, buddy.
I was
Really?
just like, I don't know where to put this thing. And I don't know do I need anchors? Do I need longer screws?
I'm outside playing with Milo. We're having a blast. And
Joe
he comes
comes
outside.
in, here's a hammer
like,
and a nail, just do it like
I can't
this.
hang this picture. It's gotten the better of me. I'm like, babe, it's okay. Like, deep breath. It's fine.
Like our van breaks down and it's like, oh, well, we'll get it fixed. It's fine. I can't hang a picture without starting to sweat.
Those are the Instagram story videos we need. I should have
Right.
spied on you.
Gosh, that's so like me, man. My wife has to do all like the handiwork because I'm just terrible at it.
Yeah, I can do laundry and I'm
great at that.
And I can run the dishwasher. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm pretty good at
Hey,
that too.
those are wonderful gifts. I would ditch the picture hanging for laundry any day.
Well, it's funny because most people I talk to, they go on the road and they miss their family so much because they're obviously separated.
Yeah.
Right.
I imagine it might be like quite the opposite for you. Sometimes you just want some alone time because you're together like all the time, right?
I love it. It's true. Like the funny thing is, especially now with Milo, we kind of get to a show and sort of divide and conquer. So it's funny. We don't actually hang. I used to want to do dates all the time. Like we'd get somewhere. I'm like, Austin is so cool, babe. Let's go for coffee. Let's do this and that. And sometimes it works, but for the most part, he kind of oversees all the stage stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting
That was
better
really
now. Now that
specific.
we have a tour manager, it's gotten better. We can at least make time to go have coffee at a cool place.
It's true. But then I'm with Milo because we didn't bring a nanny. So we didn't really often see each other till right before the show.
We really like each other. So
That's important.
Hanging
That's a
out,
good thing.
hanging out is not hard for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like when we get home, it's like, what are we gonna do? Well, let's go for a walk. Okay, together? Yeah, why not?
It's definitely less together time on the road. It feels more like home life and road life are a bit more separate than they used to be since having kids, but we're figuring it out.
I mean, you lived on the road for years, and now that you actually have a home to go to, I'm sure you cherish those moments, right?
Big time. Yes.
And you find a way to actually live on the road, like live in a good way on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring home along.
Yeah, bring coffee along, bring your pillow along, bring, little
cookies.
things that so you don't lose your mind.
Now, you've been on the road for a while. Like, even as a kid, you were playing bass in your dad's gospel quartet, right?
Yeah.
I think my first tour was like 3 shows in southern Manitoba playing bass for all like my dad and his buddies. So like Chris, who's like 17, and then his dad, and his buddies who are all like 45.
Is it really called
funny.
Southern Gospel since it was Canadian? Because I grew up in South Georgia. So Southern Gospel was like, I was really that far south.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Is it the same stylistically?
Yes.
Well, because if you call
yeah.
it just gospel, then everyone thinks of Tamla Man and stuff like that, which is awesome. But for my dad, I mean, they wanted to sing the 4-part harmony stuff.
Yeah.
So they had,
So I
everyone
guess
calls
the
it
same,
Southern
yeah.
Gospel.
I guess.
Yeah.
Northern Gospel?
Can we
Can we call it that? I don't know.
That's what we were. We were Northern Gospel.
Can we call it that?
It should be.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that your bus broke down. Was that White Neptune that broke down on your way to Detroit?
It was White Neptune, but it... Okay, so we hadn't used it for like 6 weeks, and I think it was just like a fuel pressure thing. Because then I went back and tried to start it the next day, and it ended up
After
starting.
booking flights and flying there and doing all that, we came home and it started.
So I was a little bit frustrated, but praise the Lord, it started.
We didn't have to tow it, right?
We didn't have to tow it.
Why is it called White Neptune?
That is a good question.
It was its given
That was
name.
its name.
Oh, that's what it was when you got it.
It was for sale as White Neptune, and we're like, that is
hilarious.
amazing.
It is quite unique. It looks more like a straight truck than like a tour bus. You know?
I
Yeah.
know, it's hilarious. We never do things the normal way. I don't know why.
You literally almost missed a show.
We got there
we
and got
came
on
within
stage.
like half an hour
Yeah.
Really?
of not making the show.
Yeah, Tadashi was getting off. We were supposed to be getting on, and we like just got there. So it all worked out.
You
I
made
think
it.
the show was
Made it.
okay.
You
I
made
don't
it.
remember.
Managed to sneak in a quick conversation with Michael Tate, which he doesn't have quick conversations.
Yeah.
So
I bet you're still smelling him too.
Yeah.
He wears a lot of cologne.
Yeah. End of
it was
conversation.
outdoors, so we,
Man, well, let's jump into this record. The first song that we know from the record is The God I Know. So huge for you guys. What's the story behind it?
Man, we were having a conversation in the studio because we all grew up in church. And so it was just one of those like, hey, how'd you become a Christian or this or that? And what was your upbringing? And we just realized that for all of us, it kind of, what was the shift from like, I have to go to church Sunday morning, Sunday night to going, no, this is actually the God that I know, as a 30-year-old. And it was just a really great conversation. And honestly, the seeds that were planted from that song have been kind of mind-blowing to me because it's a song about freedom, really. Like, let's throw our hands up and our worries down. Let's not be religious. Let's be alive and in love with the Lord and listening. And so we've gotten just cool feedback. Like, I'll never forget this 60-year-old man. His wife told us that in worship, he'd never put his hands up before, ever. And during our show, during that line, he put his hands up in the air and there were tears coming down his face. And he just felt freedom for the first time, like to really worship and let go. And I mean, it sounds small, but to her, that was just, she'd been praying for that for years. And so it's really cool to me. You write this little song about freedom and going beyond being saved as a Christian to being free, which is a pretty big difference. And that's exactly what the song's about. And the stories that come back are about that. And so it's been really cool to see.
As a whole, I've heard you describe this album as like joy and celebration. And then your first record you kind of described as a lot of pain and just what you had been through in the past couple of years. How do you think you got to that point? Just different stage of life? Is that kind of what these songs came out of?
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, when
Totally.
writing the first record, it was about a year or two after my mom passed away. So I think that was pretty fresh. And a lot of the songs touch on that. And we had just moved to Nashville. So it was like a whole bunch of new, fresh things that had just kind of happened. And we hadn't really written together very much. So we were kind of just learning how to do that better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Faith on the first record really looked like holding on for dear life and just like, he is with us, babe, let's do this. And the Lord really took us on a journey. Faith can also be like a home life and putting down roots and balancing those two. So yeah, they do. They feel like completely different stories to tell, and they are.
Yeah, one of your favorite songs, Chris, is Galaxies, another song that kind of encompasses that whole theme, right?
Yeah, I feel like that one for me kind of set the stage for at least a lot of the production style of things. Like we were kind of aiming for like early 80s, U2, Cure, Blondie, Police, like those kind of sounds and textures. And that was the first one that I feel like we kind of hit on something that's close. We're getting there. And some of the lines, like it's not exactly the same, but I'm a huge fan of Willie Nelson and just like his vibe, like bringing his family on the road. And I mean, we pay our taxes, so we're different in that way.
There are a few differences,
but I mean, the dude's just got so many great songs, and he had, and one of the best is like Always on My Mind, and then the end of this chorus is, we're always on God's mind, no matter what happens.
Your ways are far beyond my ways. Your thoughts are far beyond my thoughts. And still you say I'm always on your mind. Your words turn into galaxies. Your love is holding gravity. And still you say I'm always on your mind. Breathe in.
Half of this record was recorded in California, half in Nashville. It definitely has a California vibe to it.
Yeah.
Were you writing out there too to get that, or was it just kind of what happened as you were producing the record?
Yeah, bit of both.
Yeah?
I know something that we did this time, which we do a lot with Colin Monroe, who co-produced the record, is we put on a lot of our favorite movies shot in LA. A lot of them I'd never seen. He's a movie buff. I'm so not. But we'd put it on mute and we would write to this movie soundtrack. And it created a really cool backdrop.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of
It was
different for
super fun.
us.
One song actually got written after Milo was born, so he's in the track.
Oh,
Crying in
he's
the
on
background.
the album.
He's
on the
on Good
album.
Life.
Interesting.
That cry that you hear in the background, we're like, don't edit it out. Just leave it in.
And now you've got another one on the way. You're literally weeks away from having
Yeah.
your second boy, right?
Yeah.
Life is
That's
about
right.
to change again for you guys. What's the difference between having your first child and preparing for your second child? Is there any difference? Because I'm sure it's brand new the first time. And are you pros by now? You ready for the second one?
I'm glad that I know how to change a diaper this time. That'll be easier.
That's true.
I heard the first time you had to put the car seat in the car, it took a little while.
I should have had that on video too.
I needed help with that.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I think it's like what you said. The first one, you have time to prepare. The second one, for us anyway, because they'll be 18 months apart, there is no preparing. It's just you're already a parent to one who needs your full attention. And, oh, wow, I have a massive belly and I'm 9 months pregnant. Like, that's more how this one has felt. So I'm just praying he's a good sleeper because Milo slept on a bus through the night at I don't know, a couple weeks old.
Wow.
Four,
So,
yeah.
which was
I was
needed.
going to say 4 months, but
It probably was. I exaggerate everything. But yeah, I mean, for making friends on the road, it's nice when your child sleeps.
yeah.
We're praying
Keeping
for that.
friends on the road.
Yeah.
I heard you say earlier this was not the plan per se. Were you planning on waiting a little longer before the next one?
Hadn't even got to that conversation.
Yeah.
To be honest.
You were like, we just
with
had
you.
one. Let's not even think about it.
Yeah. I mean, Milo was 9 months old, which still, I mean, until a year, I don't even think we would have talked about it. It's a funny story, actually, which I've never shared. Sorry if this is too much information. But Chris takes me to the Nutcracker, which is like my favorite thing in the world. I don't think it's yours. But,
I love the music.
Right. So he always treats me, and we do like a day date all day. And so on the way to the Nutcracker, it kind of hit me like, I think I might be pregnant. And so we literally pulled off and got a pregnancy test. I took it at the Nutcracker. And I walked out and Chris was like, no, right? Like, you're just not feeling great. I was like, no, I'm pregnant. And so the whole Nutcracker, we just sat there and
First
cried.
half of the Nutcracker, we just like,
And then
I feel sorry for the people sitting next to us.
Hey, you
Like,
still
they're really
win.
not enjoying
they're
this. Like, why
they're
did you?
so moved. Like, wow.
These people.
And the worst part was we were headed to City House to like have this great date after, and I was just like a total disaster. Anyways, little one that isn't born yet, we do love you. It was just a bit of a rough start. Oh man.
Now, are you sharing names with people? Are you private about that stuff? Do you go as far as to say it before it's born?
Kind of private.
We're not.
Typically Canadian, like
Yeah?
private about a lot of things, I guess. And not private, like
But we
too
didn't-
blunt and
we
honest
had-
about other things,
We had
apparently.
Milo's name like 6 months before he came along, but we never called him that really because
Yeah.
it was like, let's wait till he comes out. Like, what if he's a Jed?
Oh,
what
thank
if
goodness he
he-
wasn't. But hey,
My name changed when I was born. I was going to be called Lance. And then
Oh.
I got here. My mom was like, that's not a Lance. That's Justin.
I hear that a lot.
Cool.
And there,
So-
I mean, we waited a good, he was born at 1 a.m. We didn't really name him till the end of the next day because
Yeah.
there is just something about it. And it's such a big deal. Like, this is you're speaking this out over your child their whole
Yeah.
life. And oof.
So many of my friends are in that stage of having kids and stuff. And it's so interesting to see the difference of people who will tell you the name and plaster all over like
Oh, yeah.
shower invitations and that sort of
Totally.
stuff. And then there are others who are just afraid that someone's going to steal their baby name.
Right.
And like, is that a real thing? Is that something like people are concerned about? I don't have kids, so I'm like,
No.
I've never been through this.
No, I know from my parents, they named my brother Graham and told their best friends, and their best friends named their son Graham.
Oh, so it really
So
happened.
it does really happen. Yeah. And I mean, now I think my parents are stoked they kept the name because they don't live in the same city as these people. But I can see how at the moment it's a big deal.
Yeah.
We
You
did
know?
make the mistake when we first got married of sharing a name that we both liked, and then we never heard the end of it. So when's
When so
Oh,
and so
so
coming.
When's
they
he
just
coming
assumed
along?
that was going to be the kid's name.
Yeah.
yeah, and we're like,
And then 10 years later, we
all
still
right,
had no kids. and my
Lesson
family was
learned.
like, okay, maybe they don't want
Zip.
kids. We're living in a Jeddah, Mom and Dad. It's not the prime time.
Yeah.
You know.
So you waited 10 years between the time you got married and the time you got. This is great news for me.
Yeah, man.
Oh, man.
I've been married
no
almost
rush.
6, and I keep getting this question from my parents, from family,
From your wife or is
from
your
my wife.
Oh, okay.
And I know. I'm
Then
the one
it's
that's
a little
holding
more.
it up.
No. Then it's a little more real because if it's your parents, it's like whatever.
Yeah, they
Sorry,
already have grandkids.
like, parents are great, but
Yep, they already have grandkids. Like,
yeah.
oh, they do. So
Yeah,
then
I
you
have-
should be
there's-
good.
I have
for a
older
while.
siblings.
There's hope for all of us, man.
have that
I mean,
taken
Tom
care
Brady
of.
is still winning Super Bowls. Yeah. He's almost 40. So, like, the game is changing. We just have to keep our legs underneath us.
Yes.
And the kids will.
So I think this is a prime example of someone who
Yes.
waited a long nice amount of time.
We
before
no, we
thinking
waited
about
a long
children.
time. It's no joke. It's true. And then we had 2 right in a row. So maybe ignore that part of the
It took
story.
me 7 years to propose. I think 6 years from marriage to kids.
I mean,
is long
I think
enough.
the advice
Yeah.
from me to you would be like, don't waste this time. Then, I mean, take
Yeah.
your time, but use it.
Go on trips you want to do.
Yeah, and we do.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
and I think part of the hesitation is like, I kind of like our life.
Oh,
And I
you know
don't know
what?
if I'm ready for it to completely change.
That's
Absolutely.
great though.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of the time on the opposite, the flip side of the conversation is people are a bit unhappy or a little like, oh, this will fulfill me.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like it does. It's absolutely amazing to be a mom. But I remember having this conversation. I married you because I love you. Whether we can have kids or not, I'm all in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so kids aren't going to like fix something or whatever. So the fact that it's solid and you love your marriage,
Yeah.
that's great. Take your time.
Yeah. Please stop asking me questions, everyone. That would be nice.
If your wife is listening,
You
I'm
can
sorry.
tell people God invented time, and He invented a lot of it.
Amen.
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
use it.
That's a good word, man. The next song and the next single for you guys, kind of tying into all this, is If I Don't Have You. What's the
Yeah.
story behind this one?
Man,
Killer
there's
bass riff.
Yeah.
Yes, most of our songs start that way. People should know. It is not an electric guitar. It is your bass guitar. And actually, we were reflecting on the Lord's Prayer, which there seems to be this theme on the record from these religious memory verses and practices that aren't negative necessarily, but you grow up and you want to know that it's real. And so we were praying the Lord's Prayer, and thy kingdom come, thy will be done, ended up flipping to, I guess that's my kingdom go. If I'm building God's kingdom, that focus takes over building my kingdom. And I think for us, when we had worked so hard to get here, we really did. I mean, we were not the American Idol, Canadian Idol, and that's a great story. It just was not our story. We'd sacrificed and worked our butts off to get here. And of course, submitting to God throughout it all, but we were building something. And so to get here and go, wow, I mean, we saw it crumble and fall a few times to the point where we knew that to have the world and to have this, dream fulfilled, but not have God in the middle of it was completely useless and empty. So thy kingdom come, my kingdom go. And while I was praying that, I was 9 months pregnant with Milo, and I was still making a to-do list and kind of in my own way trying to control my kingdom and my world. And I really felt the Holy Spirit just say to me, like, do you have the faith to rip that up and make a miracle list? To which I literally wrote in my journal, what is that? Never made a miracle list before. And it was really just the Holy Spirit saying, can you shift your focus off your kingdom, off of what you can do and accomplish, and shift it to me, and actually have eyes to see what I want to do through your family on the road. That's your ministry. Being on stage is fine, but having your kids on the road, being parents on the road, and letting me work through you is what people are going to see and notice. And I can't even begin to tell you the amount of things we are now in tune with that we missed before. Big and small miracles, And so now we literally go to a show and pray that the Lord would show us what he's up to. I mean, we have a front row seat to everyone at our show that's being literally changed and transformed. And afterwards, they tell us their stories and we write them down and we celebrate our miracle list.
I don't want the world if I don't have you. I don't want it all if it means I lose you. I've tasted and I've seen enough to know it's you I need. I don't want the world if I don't have you.
Yeah, that's kind of a interesting concept, especially in such a busy world.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm busy, my wife's busy, we're
Yeah.
all busy, we all have
Right.
stuff going on. But I feel like sometimes we can get so busy that we just miss little miracles around us, or we miss what God is
Totally.
doing. Was that kind of the
That's exactly
mindset behind your
right.
to-do list, ripping it up?
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. It's amazing how you're right. We're busy. And if we don't actually practice and pay attention to what the Lord's up to, we miss it all. And then it's empty. And then the rat race starts again. And then, you're building your kingdom again. Next show, next thing, and the life-giving part is what the Lord's doing, like the supernatural stuff.
Yeah. Have you seen stuff that you've written on your miracle list start to happen in your life?
Oh man, big time. And it's almost more like realizing that they are happening and just us paying attention. We try and do it at the end of every show, but sometimes Milo's crying or whatever. But for the most part, we'll document it right then and there. Because in the signing line, it's really changed from, can I get your autograph, to a good number of people going, can I tell you my miracle?
Yeah.
And lots of little kids, which is, that shouldn't be surprising, but they just have the best stories.
When
Track-
our van started, it was like, this is a miracle.
Yeah.
It became like I was doing something that was on my to-do list. I was calling the tow truck company and I was like, I'm going to try starting one more time. That's such a small, like, insignificant thing, but I was like, yes, praise the Lord.
No, but you know what? When you're pushed to the limit, which life on the road for us has been really intense this last year with Milo, it's been so amazing. But being a new mom and literally teaching a new person each day how to like take care of him for a few hours while I do Q&A and then trying to put him down and then jump on stage. It's real. You know what I mean? And sometimes I get on stage and I'm like, woo. But being able to be so dependent on the Lord to share those things has opened up a cool dialogue with us and our friends and fans. And the miracles are big and small, but some of them, I mean, Milo's very first fever, I'll never forget. We were on the road in California and the nanny that day, I couldn't have had a 13-year-old that had never experienced that before. I got this 40-year-old woman who was a nurse that knew exactly how to bring a fever down. I mean, I can't plan that stuff. You know, that was just a gift given to me and a miracle that I got to receive. So that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's the practical.
I imagine like being a mom and an artist and on the road with your family, it's hard to put down the to-do list because there is so much going on.
It's so true. And often it's under the umbrella of being responsible, you know, and I think sometimes lately I've been thinking about this, how you can do God things, but you have to do it in the Spirit's timing. And that's really hit me because I mean, it's really easy to just be good Christians with our list and being responsible and good stewards. But if the Lord asks you to give your money away, you give your money away. Like there's things that the Spirit does in those moments that seem counterintuitive. But anyway, that's another conversation.
No.
She usually comes up with this stuff like in interviews. Like we didn't talk about that beforehand. She's like, this is what God's talking to me about right now.
I'm much more in the moment.
And
but
on stage too.
Yeah. Maybe that's cool. I mean, maybe that's a good confirmation that we are building his kingdom because I do feel more clear-headed like on stage or here. It's almost like maybe it's because we're not with Milo and it's a second to think about what the Lord's been kind of downloading. But
Isn't that ironic? Like the less you focus on getting done, the more the Lord actually does in your life. Isn't that crazy?
that's so good and that's so true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We don't know how to rest in this culture. We really don't. But I want to work from rest. I'm really trying to do that for real. Because if not, then you meet me in a grocery store line at Trader Joe's and I'm like a total disaster. And you're like, but I did this podcast and she seemed great. You know, but that's real. I mean, I need to know how to rest so I can.
Well, the fact that you're here at 9 months pregnant is proof of that right now. It's working.
Oh man. But in a chill way, I have snacks.
Yeah.
You know, I can do anything with snacks.
The title track is These Are the Days. The record's kind of this joyous celebration of a new stage of life. And I feel like this track kind of exemplifies that. Is that right?
Totally.
You always have a great story about this on stage.
Well, it's because you named the record. He doesn't talk as much as me, clearly, as you can tell. But when he says things, they're just like, bam. And another, like, basically 3 or 4 days before having Milo, we had written 70 songs for this album. And we hadn't named the album. Maybe we have a problem with naming and committing. But we just were like, Lord, what's it supposed to be called? And we're in our first house of our whole life. And we lived in cars and apartments. And we had just taken possession and we were walking up and down our new street in front of our new house. I was massively pregnant. And I just looked at Chris and I was overwhelmed with gratitude. And I was like, thank you, Lord. And Chris said, these are the days. These are the days we'll never forget. And it was that. And in that moment, I was like, that's it. And we hadn't written the song yet. I was like, that's the title track. Let's go write that song. Yeah. So you named it. And you named Milo. So he's good at that.
Dude, you're good at naming stuff. If I ever need to rename this show, I'm calling you, man.
I have my moments.
When you're ready for babies, if you're stuck, you just call
There
Chris.
you go. Moments with Justin.
Yeah, there it is.
Renamed it.
These are the days, these are the days, the days we'll never get back. These are the days, these are the days, and these days are all we have. These are the days, these are the days, the days we'll never get back. These are the days, these are the days, and these days are all we have.
You were telling me before we got on the podcast that your son just loves the cats in the neighborhood. You might never have to buy a pet because there are so many in
Please,
your
Lord.
neighborhood, right?
That has been the line so far that we've drawn, that it's like, I love dogs, but we just can't have a dog on the
We're
road.
kind of maxed out.
Yeah.
It would just be cruel.
Yeah.
So we have
But he
like,
loves the neighbor's cats.
we have neighbors'
He's
cats
happy.
and dogs, and we have family dogs, family pets?
He's good.
We're good.
Shania Twain traveled with her Huskies, which I think is amazing, but she had like 3 buses.
Yeah, Shania Twain is a private jet.
Yeah, forget the
A little
buses.
different.
And has sold
Our life is a little
millions and
different.
millions and millions of records. She's amazing.
The last song on the record is called Seek and Find. This is a song about your son, right?
Yeah, man, we haven't played this one live yet, and I really want to because it's just so special. It's just a love letter to him before he was born. And us realizing that the only advice we had was to seek the Lord and find him. That's it. And that's what I'm still trying to do as a mom. So yeah, it's a special one, and we might have to add it into the fall set.
Okay.
I don't have all the answers to all your questions. Why? We're all just dreamers and dancers through the twists and turns of life. All I can tell you is seek and you will find. Seek and you will find. Seek and you
I'll read
I think you better hurry and write another one so the second kid doesn't feel left out.
Right? Oh my goodness. I find myself thinking that a lot. Like all this
Like, where's my
focus.
song, Mom and Dad?
Right? Okay, we'll get on it.
Next record.
You're challenged.
We're making a Christmas project right now. And actually, we wrote a song called Mother because I was thinking
you go.
about, it's exactly his song. I can't say his name yet because we haven't met our new son, but I was reflecting on Mary and just that the only thing that qualified her to be the mother of God was that she said yes. And I just thought it was so beautiful. And so I can't even listen to the song without crying yet, but next time we're on your podcast, if we get to be, we'll play that song.
Oh, most definitely I'll have you back. And I'd love to hear that song.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, guys. I've enjoyed the stories behind these songs. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the More Than the Music podcast, episode 51, featuring Jodi and Chris from Loving the Outcome. If you've made it this far, obviously you love the podcast, and I'd be so grateful if you'd be willing to share it on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter so others can hear the amazing stories behind these songs. I also love hearing why you listen to the show. You're welcome to email me anytime at justin@wayfm.com or just drop me a 5-star rating and review inside iTunes. If you'd like to win an autographed copy of Loving the Outcome CD, These Are the Days, that was featured in this episode, plus a free Loving the Outcome Miracle List booklet, just go to wayfm.com/Justin. And if you've got an Amazon Echo Dot, it's a great way to listen to the podcast. I've got a special video up right now with Chad from Unspoken showing you how to listen on the Echo Dot. And if you don't have one, we're giving one away for free. Learn how to listen and how to win right now at wayfm.com/Justin. Just click on podcasts.